Behold, this is what 12 cores, 14 threads look like in 2026. A beast that fits in the palm of your hands. Well, maybe, if you have big hands.
It's the anarchy with me on the exciting guy!
Minisforum was nice enough to send me this little unit for review. No money was exchanged, but I do get to keep it. Let's release it from its cardboard prison. There it is. At the front we've got a hole, a power button, 2 USB-A ports, a headset thingy, and another hole. I think the reset switch is behind that. At the other end we have a power plug port thingy, a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, an HDMI output, a DisplayPort port, a USB-C port, and 2 USB-A ports. That's it. Want more ports? Buy something else. Underneath is some of the usual paper stuff. In my case, a European power cable, a short HDMI cable, and a power brick rated for 19 volt and 90 watts. Some spare feet for the little unit, and a VESA mounting bracket so you could tuck it away behind your monitor. The machine has an Intel Core Ultra5 125U CPU on board, 16 GB of upgradable DDR5 memory, a 512GB NVMe drive, Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. It looks very similar to the UM750L Slim I tested last year. The pattern on top seems to be the only noticeable difference on the outside. But we're not here for the outside, right? In order to upgrade it, we need to remove the feet, hence the spare ones we got, to clear 4 screws. Remove those and you can pull the bottom part out, but be careful not to rip off the cable for the fan. Inside we see that there's only a single stick of DDR5 memory added, so no real dual channel at this point. There's a second memory slot however, so we could add one to change that. There's one NVMe drive installed and another slot for you to add more storage if needed. The Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module is hidden under the first NVMe drive. Let's turn it on and see how it does. It comes with Windows 11 Pro without any bloatware other than what comes with Windows itself. This Core Ultra5 APU has an NPU as well, which could boost some AI stuff if you'd like to run some locally. There's 12 physical cores available, which is quite a lot for a basic little unit like this. Could be cool for running virtual machines and such. Let's run some benchmarks. Geekbench's CPU test gives me a single core score of 2088 and a multi-core score of 7722, which is quite a bit lower than the score I got on the UM750L Slim I tested last year, but still better than an 8th Gen i5 desktop CPU. With an OpenGL score of 15514 and a Vulkan score of 7600, it's close but still a tad lower than the score of the UM750L Slim. I haven't tested a lot of AI stuff myself, so I'm not sure how to interpret the AI benchmark results, but I guess it's decent. The only thing quicker in my list is my M2 MacBook, which was and still is quite a bit more expensive. That could have something to do with the devices I checked so far. Vermark gives me 15 FPS average in the 1080p OpenGL test. The Vulkan variant does slightly better with 16 FPS. I tested video encoding performance with Handbrake CLI and a 4K 60 FPS variant of Big Buck Bunny. Transcoding that one to 1080p 25 FPS H.264 happened with an average of 230 FPS, which is quite good actually. Doing the same with the H.265 encoder is moving on at 235 FPS, so a little better even. Transcoding the file to 4K 25 FPS using the H.264 encoder happens at an average of 179 FPS. Very nice! Doing that using the H.265 encoder brings it up to 206 FPS. I'd say this little unit should be very decent for video editing with these results. Blackmagic's raw speed test seems to agree with that statement, albeit with lower FPS numbers, but that's for working with raw files. The disk speed test shows some very nice results from the NVMe drive, more than capable of working even with 12K video footage. Let's try a few games, shall we? Mouse PI for hire at 1080p and a medium preset moves over the screen at some 52 FPS average, with 1% lows down to 28. Not great, but fine for this game. Pinball FX at 1080p low does some 59 FPS average, with 1% lows down to 31. Counter-Strike 2 1080p low, mid-70s average with 50 FPS lows. Not horrible. WRC7 1080p medium, mid-30s. Black Mesa 1080p medium, mid-70s with lows in the high 30s. Okay-ish. Euro Truck Simulator 2 at 1080p medium settings gives us a nice mid-70s frame rate with 1% low still around 60 FPS. Does it run Doom the Dark Ages? Well, yes, but at 720p low, it's kind of a slideshow. Super Tux Kart, that runs well on everything, right? Absolutely. At 1440p and graphical FX level 3, we're getting a nice 83 FPS typical with 65 FPS steady. I guess it's not a gaming powerhouse, but that's fine. I tried it on Linux as well and everything works fine, except Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This adapter just doesn't seem to want to work. Loading the MT7921E driver manually doesn't seem to do anything for this one. I tried to boot several distros, but it didn't work on any of them. It seems like it's the same model as originally in the UM750L Slim, which I replaced in that video to get Wi-Fi and Bluetooth available on it. You could easily do the same on this one. An M.2 wireless card doesn't cost you a lot and it's quickly done. On Linux, I got a higher CPU score out of it. I found it interesting that it showed the maximum boost clock instead of the minimal clock speed, but they're both on the same power setting. Interestingly, the OpenCL score is also quite a bit higher on Linux, but the Vulkan score is way lower. When we test the GPU with Furmark at 1080p, it's returning a 15 FPS results on OpenGL and just 13 on Vulkan. Who? I tried to change the display driver from i915 to the newer XE driver, but it made no difference at all. Let's just try some games again. The same settings as we used on Windows. Mouse PI for hire flows over our screen with a whopping 40 FPS and 1% lows down to 33 FPS. Quite a bit lower than it did on Windows. Pinball FX is also showing 40 FPS and 1% lows are down to the low 20s. About 2/3 of what we've got on Windows. Ouch. Counter-Strike 2 always provides a challenge on Linux. Some systems, like this one, do best with a native port, which on this system, using the -Vulkan switch, gives us some 10 FPS less compared to Windows, but the 1% lows are similar. WRC7 is performing similar to Windows actually. Black Mesa average is somewhat lower, but the 1% lows are similar, maybe even a tad higher than on Windows. So the experience is similar. Euro Truck Simulator 2, doing just a few frames less per second compared to Windows. Not too bad. Doom the Dark Ages is a slideshow on Linux as well, with some 7 FPS. Super Tux Karts' benchmark shows a typical FPS of 84 and a steady number of 63, which is pretty similar to what we got on Windows actually. Last but not least, I wanted to see if we can improve performance by adding another stick of RAM. to get a true dual channel setup. I still had this 16GB DDR5 stick that I pulled from another machine when I tested single versus dual channel on that one with two 8GB sticks. Those are 4800 megatransfers a second though, and this system is already running its memory at 5600 megatransfers a second, so I figured it would be best to use this one. The MIT code shows me that both sticks are in the same channel, which is kind of a bummer, but I'm not sure if it really matters. GPU-C on Windows is showing 4x32, and 4x32 is 128 as well, right? A memory benchmark is showing a substantial difference, as you can see here. The highest speeds are about a third higher with both sticks inserted. Geekbench's multi-core CPU result is some 900 points higher now, closing in on the UM750L Slim that was already rocking dual-channel memory. The Vulkan GPU score went up over 600 points as well. However, OpenCL is now scoring quite a bit less. Vermark now shows 20 FPS on OpenGL, a quarter more than before. Nice! The Vulkan test did quite a lot better as well, with 19 FPS compared to 13 before. Obviously, it could be that simply having more memory is doing some of the heavy lifting here. But I figure if someone is going to upgrade this unit to dual channel, they'd probably just buy a single 16GB stick as well, if they can afford it. Look at that! Doom the Dark Ages is now at an almost playable 9 FPS! Let's go! Euro Truck Simulator 2 is showing a way higher average as well. And have a look at Super Tox Card! Woohoo! It doesn't fix all games though. So who's this machine for? Well, not for gamers I guess. But its video processing abilities are pretty nice, so I guess this could actually be a decent video editing station. The AI acceleration shizzle might be nice if you tend to run local LLMs and such. Image, anyone? The sheer amount of cores makes this a great little home lab system as well, running several virtual machines and containers without a sweat. Oh, its power usage is very nice as well, by the way. Idle in Windows, it's using just over 8 watts. I forgot to film idle power draw on Linux, but I can tell you it was about the same. During a Geekbench multi-core test, it spikes to just over 40 watts. I did film idle power draw in Linux with 2 sticks of RAM, which is hardly any higher than before, so that's cool. What are your thoughts on this one? Let me know in the comments. That's all for today. I hope you liked this video. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.